I'm Alexis Vaughn. 19 and family dinners in our Austin home were supposed to be about sharing the day, not shattering everything I trusted. But that night, as we sat around the table with plates of barbecue still steaming, my world cracked open. Mom's face turned pale when her daughter slipped me a notebook under the table, her hands trembling like she was handing over a bomb. I flipped through the pages, my stomach twisting at the scribbled entries, dates, amounts, and notes that screamed betrayal. This wasn't just a random ledger. It proved they'd stolen my college tuition to cover shady debts from Mom's endless gambling sprees, the money I'd counted on for my art classes at the University of Texas, gone to feed her addiction to online slots and backroom deals with dangerous lenders. My fork clattered to the plate. I slammed the table, pointed straight at her, and said, "Give it back, or lose everything." The room froze. Her eyes widened in panic, but she didn't deny it. Instead, she stammered excuses about family sacrifices and how I needed to step up, maybe find a well-off partner to bail us out. The words hit like knives, turning our home into a battlefield. What happened next exposed lies that ran deeper than I imagined, pulling in threats from shadowy figures and forcing me to fight for my future in ways I never expected. If you've ever uncovered a family secret that changed everything, drop your story in the comments below. I'd love to hear how you handled it. Smash that like button, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss how this unfolded. You won't believe the twists. I stormed out of the house and jumped into my car, my heart pounding as I peeled out of the driveway. The streets of our Austin suburb blurred past as I gripped the steering wheel, trying to process the betrayal staring back at me from that notebook. I couldn't think straight. So I pulled over at a gas station a few miles away and dialed Travis, my fingers fumbling on the phone. He picked up on the second ring, his voice calm but concerned. "Alexis, what's wrong? You sound upset." I took a deep breath and spilled everything: the notebook's entries showing Mom's gambling losses, the withdrawals from my tuition fund matching those shady payments. Travis went silent for a moment, then sighed heavily. "I knew something like this might happen. It's the same crap she pulled on me a few years back." He explained how, when he started his engineering program, Mom had called him with a similar story: sudden debts from her online betting habits, vague mentions of dangerous lenders breathing down her neck. She'd even suggested he drop out and find a high-paying job or marry into money to help cover it. Too proud to do that. Travis had quit school temporarily, worked double shifts as a welder in an Austin factory, breathing in fumes and scorching his hands to save up. It took him years to get back on track and finish his degree in software engineering. "I didn't tell you because I hoped she'd stopped," he said, his tone bitter. "Dad always covered for her, saying it was just a phase. But those lenders aren't joking. They're the kind who show up at your door if payments slip." My mind raced. The notebook listed thousands gone: $30,000 meant for my art supplies, classes, and dorm at the University of Texas, gone to feed her addiction to online slots and backroom deals with dangerous lenders. Travis asked if Whitney had said anything else when she handed it over. I told him she'd whispered about finding it hidden in Mom's dresser while looking for laundry money, her eyes wide with fear. We talked for an hour as I sat in the parking lot, the Texas sun setting over the strip malls. Travis laid out a plan first: document everything. He'd come over tomorrow with his laptop to scan the notebook and match it to bank records he'd quietly pulled last year when he suspected Mom's habits were flaring up again. "We can't confront them yet," he said. "We need proof that's ironclad. I'll show you how to record calls without them knowing there's an app for that." He mentioned a contact from his old legal internship, Detective Keith Donovan, who specialized in financial crimes and shady lending rings. "He's helped bust a few operations around Austin," Travis explained. "Those lenders prey on people like Mom, offering quick cash for bets, but with interest that spirals out of control. Keith can guide us on getting subpoenas if needed. I agreed, feeling a spark of hope amid the anger. We decided I'd act normal for now. Pretend I was considering Mom's ridiculous suggestion about finding a rich partner from the business school crowd at UT. As we hung up, Travis promised to pick up Whitney from school tomorrow so she could fill in more details safely. "She's brave for giving you that notebook," he said. "But we have to protect her too. Those lenders don't play fair if they think families turning on each other." I hung up, staring at the notebook on the passenger seat. For the first time, I saw a way out, not just escaping the house, but fighting back with facts and the law. Tomorrow, we'd start building our case, step by step, in the quiet of his apartment downtown, back at my dorm near the University of Texas campus. I couldn't sleep. The notebook's pages kept replaying in my head, entries like 5,000 to cover last week's losses, dated right before my tuition payment bounced. I texted Travis a photo of one page, and he replied immediately, "That's our smoking gun. Get some rest, we're turning this around." I opened my laptop and started noting every withdrawal I remembered from my statements, cross-referencing with the dates. It was tedious, but it kept my mind off the pit in my stomach. The next morning, Travis pulled up in his truck outside my dorm. We drove to a coffee shop near the Colorado River in central Austin, away from prying eyes. Whitney met us there after school, her backpack slung over one shoulder. She looked nervous but determined. "I saw Mom hiding it last week," she whispered. "She was crying on the phone about needing more money." Travis nodded, pulling out his scanner. We digitized every page. Then he showed me how to use a discreet recording app on my phone. "Next time Mom calls about helping the family, hit record. We need her admitting the debts on tape." He called Keith Donovan from the table, putting him on speaker. Keith's voice was steady, professional. "Sounds like a classic case of predatory lending mixed with addiction. Send me the scans, I'll advise on next steps. Like getting a subpoena for bank records." We spent the afternoon mapping it out. I'd go home acting like nothing happened, probe Mom for more details while recording. Travis would handle the legal side, and Whitney would keep an eye out for any new hiding spots. Casey, Travis's girlfriend from work, offered her place as a backup if things got heated. By evening, we had a solid plan. As I drove back to the suburb, the Austin skyline fading behind me, I felt less like a victim and more like someone taking control. The notebook was locked in my glove compartment. Our first piece of real leverage. Whitney texted me later, "Be careful, Mom's acting weird." I replied with a thumbs up, knowing we were just getting started. The next day, I headed back home. I slipped into the house quietly, my phone ready in my pocket. Mom was in the kitchen, stirring coffee like nothing had happened. She looked up and smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Alexis, good you're here. We need to talk about helping with the family situation." I nodded, hitting the record button discreetly as she sat me down. She leaned in, her voice low. "Those debts aren't going away. You could meet someone from the business crowd at UT, someone with money who could support us all. Dress nice, laugh at their stories, and don't push back if things get complicated. It's just temporary, until we stabilize." I played along, asking questions to draw her out. "What if I can't find someone fast enough?" She hesitated, then admitted the lenders were pressing hard, mentioning calls from a guy named Dominic who expected payment soon. "He's not patient," she said, her fingers twisting the mug. "If we miss more, it'll affect everyone. You have a good look, use it to connect with the right people." The words made my skin crawl, but I kept calm, getting her to spell out the plan on tape. She even suggested specific spots on campus where wealthy guys hung out, like the student union during lunch rushes. After she finished, I excused myself and texted Whitney to meet me in her room. She snuck in, closing the door softly. "I found something else," she whispered, pulling out Mom's old phone from her backpack. She left it charging last night. Look at this app, it's tracking something. We opened it, and there was a log of locations, times, and even messages about payments. One entry showed a pin at my dorm near the University of Texas campus, time-stamped from yesterday. "She's been monitoring you," Whitney said, her voice shaking. We screenshot everything, realizing it tied directly to the lender's demands. Travis called later, confirming the app data matched patterns from shady lending services he'd researched. "Send it over, we'll add it to the file." He arranged for me to meet Dominic the next afternoon, saying Keith had cleared it as long as I wore a wire. "Stay in public," Travis warned. "The coffee shop in central Austin, near the river, lots of people around." I arrived early at the spot, the bustle of downtown Austin providing some cover. People chatted over lattes, unaware of the knot in my stomach. Dominic showed up on time. A middle-aged guy in casual slacks and a button-down, looking like any businessman. He shook my hand firmly and ordered an espresso before sitting across from me. "Your mom's in deep," he started, his tone matter-of-fact. "Those bets added up fast. We need consistent payments, or things get uncomfortable for families." I pretended interest, asking about the total owed. He pulled out a small pad, listing figures that matched the notebook's entries. $30,000 funneled through back channels. "Smart girls like you can help rearrange terms," he said with a smirk. "Find the right connections, and we might adjust the interest." When I pressed for details, he leaned closer. "Accidents happen when folks ignore warnings. Better to handle this privately, no courts involved." His words weren't outright threats, but the implication hung heavy. I nodded, keeping the conversation going until he finished his coffee and left with a nod. Back at the dorm, I uploaded the recording to Travis. He forwarded it to Keith, who replied quickly, "Solid evidence of coercion. We'll build on this." Meanwhile, Whitney sent more screenshots from the app, showing another tracking attempt that morning. Travis introduced me to Donna Greer over email, the financial aid specialist at the University of Texas who'd handled emergency cases before. "She's discreet," he said. "Send her the basics, no details on the lenders yet." Donna responded that evening, scheduling a meeting for tomorrow. "Bring any proof of hardship," she wrote. I gathered my bank statements, cross-checking them against the notebook and app logs. The patterns were clear, Mom's withdrawals timed with her betting spikes. Keith called to walk me through the wire setup for future talks. "Clip it inside your collar," he instructed. "Test it before any call." He demonstrated over video, emphasizing how to stay natural. That night, Mom texted about family options, but I ignored it, focusing on the plan. Whitney slipped me a note under my door, found her password log, more proof inside. We met in the backyard, away from ears, and she handed over scribbled codes that unlocked more debt emails. It was building fast, each piece strengthening our case against the mess Mom had created. A few days later, the threats escalated. I got a frantic call from Travis while walking to class. "Check your phone, someone slashed all 4 tires on my truck last night." He sent photos, deep gashes in the rubber, and a note tucked under the wiper reading, "Family handles family business." My pulse raced as I stared at the screen. The busy University of Texas quad suddenly feeling exposed. Travis said he'd already reported it to Keith, who linked it to witness intimidation from the lenders. Keith arrived at my dorm within the hour, his face grim. He explained we needed to move fast, those shady creditors were escalating to scare us off. "You're not safe here," he said. Travis suggested Casey's apartment on the other side of Austin, a quiet spot near downtown where she lived alone. We packed essentials quickly, and Keith drove us there in an unmarked car, checking mirrors the whole way. Casey's place was small but secure, with deadbolts on every door and windows overlooking a busy street. Once settled, Keith set up a secure line for calls and explained the next step, a subpoena for bank records. "The notebook and app logs give us probable cause," he said, typing up the request on his laptop. "We'd target the local branch where Mom had withdrawn funds, pulling transaction history to match the debts." Travis handled the paperwork, his engineering precision making the forms airtight. Whitney texted updates from home, saying Mom was pacing and making hushed calls, nothing new. But it confirmed the pressure was building. Keith coached me on safety protocols, vary routes to class, avoid isolated spots, and report any odd cars. "These lenders rely on fear," he noted, "but with the tire incident documented, it's evidence against them." We spent the afternoon reviewing the subpoena draft, ensuring it covered every withdrawal date from the notebook. Donna emailed that afternoon with preliminary aid forms, but she needed the official records to push it through. The following morning, Keith filed the subpoena at the courthouse in central Austin. We waited in a nearby park, the Texas heat bearing down as he returned with confirmation. "It'll take a day or two for the bank to comply," he said. In the meantime, Travis dug into public records on his laptop, finding liens on the house that hinted at Mom's deeper troubles. Casey brought takeout that evening, her steady presence calming us as we pored over the data. Whitney snuck out to meet us at a library branch near her school, handing over a USB drive with more screenshots from Mom's phone. "She mentioned Dominic again last night," she whispered. Keith nodded, adding it to the file. The subpoena came through faster than expected. Bank statements arrived via secure email, showing transfers to untraceable accounts that aligned perfectly with the lender's demands. One line item even noted payment to D Associates, tying directly to Dominic. With the documents in hand, Keith outlined the escalation. "This strengthens our case for protective orders." Travis coordinated with Donna, forwarding redacted versions for the aid application. She called back excited. "This qualifies you for emergency funds. I'll expedite it." As we wrapped up the day, Keith stationed an undercover officer nearby for watch. The apartment felt like a fortress, but the knowledge that we had concrete proof shifted something inside me. We weren't just reacting anymore. That night, another text came from an unknown number. "Wrong move, debts don't disappear." I showed Keith, who traced it immediately. "They're slipping," he said. We used the conversation to prepare statements, detailing every interaction. Casey helped organize the files, her questions sharpening our focus. By the end of the week, the subpoena had unlocked more email trails from the bank, confirming suspicious activity flagged months ago, but ignored. The pieces were falling into place, each revelation hardening my resolve. Whitney stayed over one night, her small bag packed with essentials, whispering about Dad's growing silence at home. "He's starting to crack," she said. Travis promised we'd protect her too. As I lay awake, the city lights filtering through the blinds, I knew the confrontation was coming, but now we had the upper hand. The following week, we pushed forward. Keith set up a full briefing at Casey's apartment, bringing equipment for the second recording. He clipped a new wire to my shirt, smaller than the first, and tested it with a mock conversation. "This one's higher quality, court ready," he said. The goal was to get Dominic talking about specific enforcement methods, building on the bank data we'd secured. Travis reviewed the questions with me, phrasing them to sound naive but probing. "Ask about what happens if payments stop," he suggested. Whitney listened in, adding details from overhearing Mom's recent calls. I arranged the meet through a burner number Keith provided, setting it at a different coffee shop in East Austin, one with outdoor seating for better surveillance. Dominic agreed quickly, his text curt. On the day, Keith positioned 2 undercover officers nearby, one as a jogger, another at a table with a laptop. I arrived first, ordering tea to steady my nerves. Dominic slid into the seat across from me, scanning the area before speaking. "Progress on your family's end?" he asked, sipping black coffee. I handed over a small envelope with cash from Keith's fund, pretending it was a partial payment. "What's the full timeline for clearing this?" I questioned. He pocketed it without counting. "Depends on cooperation, missed deadlines, and we have ways to encourage it visits, reminders that stick." When I pressed for examples, he described scenarios of property damage or job interference, always skirting direct admissions but implying enough. "Courts are slow, our methods are efficient," he added with a cold smile. The wire captured every word, including his mention of past accidents with non-payers. After he left, Keith debriefed me in the car. "That's gold for charges clear, intent to intimidate." Back at the apartment, we transcribed the audio, matching phrases to legal definitions of coercion. Donna called with updates on the aid package. "The subpoena records sealed it. Your application's approved for partial coverage," she confirmed. But to finalize, we needed court backing to freeze assets. Travis drafted the petition for a temporary order, listing the stolen tuition as embezzlement. Keith reviewed it, adding affidavits from the recordings. "We'll file tomorrow at the federal courthouse downtown," he said. Whitney contributed by recalling Mom's late-night arguments with Dad about the debts, noting dates that aligned with new withdrawals. Casey helped organize the evidence folders, her calm efficiency keeping us focused. The filing went smoothly the next morning. Keith knew the clerk, speeding things along. The judge granted an emergency hearing for the following day. Citing the intimidation evidence, we spent the afternoon preparing testimony, me on the tuition loss, Travis on the family pattern, even Whitney's observations as a minor witness. Donna sent confirmation docs for the aid, tying it to the case number. At the hearing in the Austin Federal Building, Keith presented the recordings and bank matches. The judge questioned details but nodded at the coercion angle. She issued the freeze on my parents' accounts and house, preventing any sales until resolution. Brenda called frantically afterward, but I let it go to voicemail, recording her pleas about lenders closing in. Keith used it as supplemental evidence. Donna met me at her office on campus later, walking through the payment plan. "With the freeze, you'll get restitution eventually, enough for full semesters ahead." She printed the forms, and I signed, feeling the weight lift slightly. Travis coordinated with a lawyer friend for the civil suit, prepping interrogatories for Brenda and Randall. Whitney stayed with us more often, her school bag becoming a fixture. She shared a hidden email chain from Mom's laptop, showing direct lender communications. Keith added it to the docket. As the week ended, the case file grew thicker, each edition solidifying our position. The lender's silence felt ominous, but with the court's backing, we were ready for whatever came next. The next morning, we faced the courtroom. The federal courthouse in downtown Austin loomed large, its glass facade reflecting the Texas sun. Inside, the air was cold, the benches hard as we sat waiting. Keith adjusted his tie, laying out our evidence, the notebook Whitney found. Bank statements from the subpoena, recordings of Dominic's veiled threats, and Mom's own words about pushing me toward a rich partner. Travis handed the clerk our affidavits, his jaw tight with focus. The judge, a woman with sharp eyes, called the case. I stood beside Travis, my hands steady despite the nerves. Keith presented first, playing the audio of Dominic describing reminders that stick for missed payments. He pointed to ledger entries, $30,000 siphoned from my tuition to cover Mom's gambling debts. The bank records sealed it, showing transfers to accounts linked to Dominic's operation. Whitney's screenshots of Mom's payment app were submitted too, each date matching a withdrawal. Mom sat across the room, her face pale again, avoiding my gaze. Dad was beside her, his shoulders slumped. Their lawyer argued they were desperate, not malicious. But the judge cut him off. "This is theft. Plain and simple," she said, her voice firm. She questioned Mom directly about the notebook. Brenda stammered, admitting she tracked the debts to manage the situation. Dad stayed silent, his eyes fixed on the floor. Keith pushed for a no-contact order against Dominic, citing intimidation. The judge agreed, signing it on the spot. She also upheld the asset freeze, ordering restitution for my tuition within 6 months. Dominic's lawyer, cornered by the evidence, accepted a deal 60% of frozen funds to clear the debt, with a paper trail for authorities to track. Dominic nodded curtly, his confidence gone under the courtroom lights. As we left, Brenda grabbed my arm in the hallway. "Alexis, we didn't mean to hurt you," she pleaded. I pulled away, my voice low. "You chose your bets over me." Travis stepped in, guiding me out. Whitney, waiting outside, hugged me tightly, her school backpack still on. I blocked Mom's number that afternoon, done with her excuses. Dad sent one text, apologizing vaguely, but I deleted it without replying. Donna met me at her University of Texas office later, finalizing the emergency aid. "The court order clinches it. You'll get full coverage for this semester and a payment plan for next," she said, handing me signed forms. The weight of financial ruin lifted slightly, but the betrayal still stung. Travis filed the civil suit paperwork that evening, ensuring Mom and Dad faced legal consequences beyond the freeze. Back at Casey's apartment, we reviewed the day. Whitney shared how Mom's job at a local accounting firm was on the line. Her boss had caught wind of the court case through Austin's tight-knit professional circles. Gossip spread fast, and Brenda's reputation was crumbling. Dad, meanwhile, had moved to a motel across town, his marriage unraveling under the strain. Travis confirmed it through a mutual friend. Randall was looking for new work. Unable to face neighbors who'd heard the news, Keith called with an update. Dominic's operation was collapsing. His arrest came that night during a routine traffic stop, where police found incriminating documents tying him to other shady deals. "Your recordings tipped the scale," Keith said. The lender's network was scattering, too scared to target us further. Whitney overheard Mom crying about losing her savings to cover legal fees, her world shrinking as consequences hit. Casey made coffee, her steady presence grounding us. Travis drafted a plan to keep Whitney safe, suggesting she stay with us until things settled. I nodded, grateful for her courage in handing me that notebook. The courtroom victory felt real, but it wasn't joy, it was clarity. Mom and Dad had made their choices, and I wasn't their fallback anymore. As we sorted the last of the evidence, I felt the ground shift beneath me, solidifying a path I'd forge without them. Over the next few months, life moved on. I threw myself into my routine at the University of Texas, attending art lectures and sketching in the campus studios. The emergency aid from Donna kicked in fully, covering my fees and leaving room for a part-time gig at the student gallery. I sorted exhibits during shifts, handling canvases and frames that reminded me of the creativity I'd almost lost. Grades came back strong. My portfolio professor praised a series on fractured families, calling it raw and compelling. I avoided home entirely, crashing at friends' places or the dorm when needed. Travis landed a senior role at a tech firm in North Austin, his experience turning the family's mess into a strength during interviews. He texted updates about his new office, complete with views of the hills. Whitney moved in with him after school let out, her room set up with posters and books. She enrolled in summer classes at a local community college, focusing on graphic design. "No more secrets," she said during our weekly lunches at a taco stand near campus. We blocked Mom and Dad's numbers together, deleting old messages without a second thought. Casey became a regular fixture, helping Whitney adjust and cooking meals that filled the apartment with warmth. She connected me with a counselor through her work's employee program, sessions that unpacked the anger I'd buried. "You're rebuilding from scratch," the counselor noted, and it rang true. I joined a hiking group on weekends, trekking trails around Ladybird Lake, the exercise clearing my head. Friends from class invited me to gallery openings, where I networked without the shadow of family debts. Word trickled in about mom and dad through distant relatives. Brenda's accounting job vanished when her boss discovered the court records public filings in Texas don't stay hidden long. She faced collections calls daily, her credit ruined from the unfrozen debts she couldn't pay. The house in the suburb went into foreclosure, listed for sale at a loss after the lenders circled back. Neighbors whispered about the scandal, and her social circle dried up. She ended up in a small apartment on the city's edge, scraping by on odd jobs while attending mandatory addiction meetings ordered by the probation office. Dad fared no better. Randall filed for divorce quietly, citing irreconcilable differences tied to the financial ruin. He moved to a rundown motel in South Austin, taking a demotion at his office to avoid the gossip. Mutual friends cut ties, leaving him isolated. Whitney got one last call from him, begging for contact. But she hung up and blocked him too. "They chose this," Travis said when we discussed it over coffee. The lender's fallout hit Dominic hardest. His arrest led to a plea deal, but his assets were seized, scattering his network. I graduated to full independence, paying my own bills with gallery earnings and aid refunds. Travis and I opened a joint savings account at a new bank, depositing small amounts monthly, no more family funds at risk. Whitney thrived, her designs winning a school contest. We celebrated with a quiet dinner at a food truck park, toasting to fresh starts. Casey proposed to Travis soon after, their engagement a bright spot amid the wreckage. Looking back, the betrayal forged something unbreakable in me. I learned to spot red flags early, trusting my instincts over blood ties. The notebook that started it all sat in a safe deposit box, a reminder of what I'd overcome. Mom tried reaching out once through a cousin, but I declined, focusing on my path forward. Dad faded into silence, his choices sealing his isolation. In the end, cutting them out wasn't revenge, it was survival. I built a life free from their chaos, stronger for the scars. If there's one lesson from this nightmare, it's this: protect your future fiercely. And don't let family drag you into their abyss. Independence isn't just freedom, it's the key to rising above.